Alright, so I'm really excited and happy to be sharing this video with you right now. And basically what I'm going to talk about and demonstrate and illustrate is how spirituality and most common practice can, in actuality, be a massive detriment and really cut us off and isolate us from a lot of nourishment and energy that's always available to us. And this might be a little bit controversial, might push some of your buttons, and that's fine. And hopefully elevates you and challenges you to see things from a newer and higher perspective. So as we start off in society, we are kind of pushed into the idea that more is better, bigger is better, more power, the more influence, the more money you have is better, which is just demonstrating that society is really orchestrated as kind of a ladder because underlying it is kind of this hierarchical way of viewing reality, meaning more is better, bigger is better, newer is better, more power, more influence, more money, more status, etc. is better. So if you look around in our culture, it's pretty obvious. I really don't need to spend much time explaining that. And since we're born into this society, in our minds, we kind of want to strive for these things. We have deep desires for these things. It's kind of pre-programmed into us. So then what happens is we kind of get to a point in our lives where we wake up and we get on a quote spiritual journey. So usually what happens, typically what happens, is we denounce all of these worldly things of money, power, status, influence, etc. and say, oh, those are bad. It's just a bunch of crap from society. It's just worldly, earthly thing, and I don't need anything to do with that because I'm going to this higher realm, this higher dimension. And that's typically what happens. And then immediately after that is first we denounce those things, and then second, we just end up replacing those things and duplicating and replicating the exact same process, yet in a quote spiritual world. And so what I mean by that is we renounce these quote worldly values, but then we just replace them with quote spiritual values, which are associated with self-development, things like, oh, I'm truly devoted, or I'm religious, or I'm spiritual, or I'm conscious, or I'm compassionate, or I'm enlightened, or I'm all of these things, which we then strive for and really spend a lot of energy and attention and devote a lot of our life to, much in the same way that most people devote their life to, wealth and attainment and status and power and all these things. But yet in our minds we're thinking, oh, whatever, they don't know what they're up to. They're just, whatever. There's just this worldly crap. But me, I'm conscious, or I'm enlightened, or I'm spiritual, I'm devoted, or I meditate 80 hours a day, and I don't eat all of these things, and I don't do all this, and that makes me better than all these other people. Which is then just taking that pre-program that society gave you and just reinforcing it even more, and just taking it on. But instead of it wearing a black t-shirt, you take it and put on a white t-shirt on, and you say, oh, it's so much better. But in actuality, it's just the same t-shirt, just a different color, if that makes sense. Two sides of the same coin are in fact still the same coin. Hopefully that illustrates that. So from that point, it usually turns to a real drive and desire to really get free of our quote earthiness, or our worldly attachments, or our animal nature, or what it is that makes us embodied in the physical reality, which that actually just causes more division, causes more separation, and only reinforces the hierarchical view of reality that places, one part of our being as higher or another, or superior to another, which then, thinking mind's better than feeling mind, logic's better than emotion, etc., etc., etc. So what ends up happening, and what the point and the title of this video is referring to, is that when we do this, when we try to elevate ourselves from our quote earthly nature, or our mere moral, tendencies, what in fact we are doing is cutting ourselves off from the very thing which connects us to the very source of life, or cosmic chi, or cosmic nourishment, or whatever you want to call it. We're in fact taking it and we're cutting ourselves off from it. We're saying, oh, it's bad. We got to get rid of it. We got to get above it. We got to suppress it. We got to control it. We got to suffer for it. We got to take on all these aesthetic disciplines, which in reality just push us further and further and further away from the real thing that we're trying to get to, and just reinforce that original program that society gave us, that original hierarchical way of reality, and that original climb the ladder view of the world. Meaning in society they say, okay, well, if you start off and you're an accountant, maybe one day you can be a manager, maybe next day you can be that, maybe one day you'll be CEO. But you switch that over to the spiritual world, it says, okay, well, you're a mere human at this point, and maybe one day you'll be, a bodhisattva, and then maybe you'll be an arhat, and maybe you'll be an immortal, and then maybe you'll be enlightened, and maybe you'll have all these stages. Maybe you'll have samadhi 1, then you'll have samadhi 2, then you'll have samadhi 3, then you'll have cosmic samadhi, you'll have maha samadhi. I mean, you just pick your different systems, and it's all in there, whether it's, Freemasons with all the different degrees, or whatever with all the different belts. I mean, it's there, and it's the same exact program. So the underlying point that I'm trying to communicate is that really all parts of our body and our psyche are different kinds of consciousness that are meant to function in complementary ways to enhance life. And to start divvying it up and chopping it up and saying, I got to get rid of this or get rid of that or go beyond this earthly body is in effect just cutting us off from, the very thing, the vessel that's connecting us to all of life. And in reality, to really grow, quote, spiritually or internally or energetically is really very simple and very direct, and doesn't necessarily require all these complex and intricate and difficult disciplines that so many things and so many people are saying that we need to do. It can be as simple as subtracting step by step the false programs that were put into us, which then free our true self, our inner self more, which then give us more energy, more power, more control, more creativity, more of the things that we actually want, but in a more simple, indirect way. And that's really how we can define inner success versus outer success. So the last point that I want to make is to go back to what I said about, how society defines success. It's, climbing the ladder, getting more, getting bigger, getting newer, etc. But when we look at the inner success, when we look at the whole point of this, we can define it as simply subtracting step by step the false programs that were given to us from society, from culture, from everything around us, subtracting those, deprogramming them, and then in essence, taking those away, energy will flow better, and we'll feel better, and we'll have more of the things that we're actually wanting, more of the things that will actually nourish us and energize us and make us feel good. So hopefully I was able to get my points across concisely and clearly. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. I look forward to hearing them, because hopefully this generated some ideas in your mind, and I will talk to you soon.